welcome to Spiritual Topic Tuesdays. We have an amazing lineup of spiritual people that are here that are ready to take the topic of what is faith and how does it work and break it down from their own perspectives, which is something we encourage. We encourage everyone's perspective, and every one of them has a valid voice. There is no wrong perspective. We're working to create a valid space for everybody where they can find something that resonates with them. Now, before we jump in, I want to remind everybody that at the end of the video will be everybody's contact information. So if you resonate with somebody and you want to reach out to them, you'll have that ability. And let's introduce everybody one by one. My name is Randy Sands, psychic medium, animal communicator, tarot reader, and teacher. Chris, would you like to start off?
Hi, I'm Chris Colin Kern. I'm an intuitive empath and an animal communicator. I also do animal healing. I do tarot and oracle readings. I do intuitive health readings on humans and animals. And I also am in the final stages of the vet tech coursework. So I will be a vet tech by the end of May. So working with animals.
That gal works her behind off, you gals. Works her behind off.
Hi, I'm Wanda Hernandez, Reiki practitioner, combo practitioner. I facilitate medicine ceremonies, sacred medicine ceremonies. I'm learning tarot and always a student, as I always say. And that is me, Wanda.
All right.
Okay, I'm Sarah Sachs, and I'm a medium, psychic, Reiki master. I read tarot cards as part of my psychic work, and I guess that's about it.
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm from Lilydale. I'm a musician, artist, and I'm moving a lot towards the healing modalities of music and art and photography and things like that. And that's that.
All righty. So tonight's topic is what is faith and how does it work? And I think, Chris, we elected you to start off.
I'm the lucky one. Faith to me is a very abstract thing. I believe that we all need to have faith or a belief in something larger than ourselves. So a creator or a beginning point for all of us, but it also, to me, has to do with the energies that tie us all together. And that drive us forward. So the faith is not just we were created and now we're here, but how then are we tied energetically to that creation, and how does that connection drive us in a positive direction and towards each other? So I believe that faith can take a number of different forms. And I think most of us are all really saying the same thing about faith, even though we use different terminology and different packaging for that faith. So I don't really think there's a difference between believing in Allah or believing in Jesus or believing in Muhammad or believing in nothing. That it all is coming to the same point of how did we get here? Why are we here? What brings us together? And where are we going?
Next.
Faith is believing the unknown. It's kind of it's exactly what Chris has said, it's like it's just everyone has their own version of faith and what it means to them. So many ways to package it, as she said, but faith is the unknown, believing and trusting and going with the flow of what is. Just knowing that you have faith, that all will be well. Faith and just Wow, just believing, just knowing, just trusting and being there and going along with that flow. It's pretty much faith for me. You know, I live every day of my life trying to live in the present moment and knowing that all will be well. And faith is just going, as I said, with the flow. And we all have our expressions, different ways to express faith for each individual.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, faith is something that I've grappled with because as I was coming into my mediumistic abilities, that meant that the atheism that I had followed for a number of years, that kind of was going out of the window. So I almost felt as though I was kind of working with a blank canvas. And I believe that, well, the faith is, as far as spiritualism goes, is the faith that we go on after the change known as death. And that, but it goes deeper. I'm feeling as though it started with me and having faith in myself that I could do this work, but that I wasn't really doing it alone. And that the spirit was a big part of that. And faith and belief are really, really very close cousins. I think that it's hard to kind of separate them from me, but I think what helped me in the beginning when I was grappling with this change in my life was that the proof through mediumship, that being able to bring forth this someone from the spirit world and have it validated. So while it may seem like it's a mysterious thing of the unknown that you have to believe it is validated through the evidence that's given that the recipient can take. So it goes on many levels, as having faith in myself, and that even if something ridiculous comes to mind that doesn't make any sense to me, that I will say it. And most of the time it makes sense to the recipient, whether it's in a private sitting or a public demonstration. And I believe that maybe having faith in oneself, and that with some help, that's the beginning of having faith in the whole process. So I believe it can change over time, but and as we grow, the faith kind of evolves and changes a little bit. It's something that isn't the easiest thing to put into words, but that's what it is for me right now.
Awesome. Greg?
I agree that it's something that it's a belief. I think if you look in a spiritual way, I think there's a certain thing that faith means to people that are spiritual. If you look at it from a spiritual perspective, the faith in something you can't see, but you have faith that say it could happen, or is going to happen. I think it's usually aimed at something good. But I also think faith can be on a smaller level, not like a spiritual level, but I believe it's very closely related to manifestation, because I think when you manifest something, it has a lot to do with faith. And I've done that a lot over the years. I can pinpoint things that I manifest, and I have faith. I could say it this way: as I had faith that it would happen, or manifest it. So I think faith and belief and manifestation are kind of intertwined in a lot of different ways, a lot of different perspectives. But I do believe that faith can have a personal, it doesn't have to be spiritual, and it doesn't always have to be about religion and God and the universe. It can be a smaller, like just personal level. I hope I explained that enough.
All right. I think you did a good job. Like Sarah, faith was something that was difficult for me, especially when I first really started working with my mediumship. Because to me, faith also tied into my confidence. You know, when you're doing a reading and you get a giraffe in the middle of a living room, like you really have to have faith to spit that out. And it turns out that, you know, maybe the person trained giraffes or they had a giraffe figurine in their living room, something along these lines, but or a picture. But, you know, I had to really learn faith. So, you know, it's my belief that everyone is going to define their own ideas of what faith means to them and how it works based upon their belief system. Um, Hopefully there'll be some perspective here that resonates, you know, with everybody. My thoughts are, you know, a huge, you know, my thoughts are, my faith is God-based, you know. Everybody's going to call it what they want to call it, you know, God, higher power, universe. And my belief system is in the God presence. Um, for me, faith is knowing that I can relax. I can be in the most turbulent times. And for me, I know that God has given me a track record of proving that I can get past my darkest hours. And believe me, I have had many, as I'm sure everybody has.
Mm.
Um, you know, some people could argue that, you know, God has let them down in one way or another. But in reality, we don't know the bigger picture and why things happen the way they do. Um, it's my belief that if I put my trust in God, I'll never be let down. Um, you know, that doesn't mean that life is necessarily going to go the way I want it to go to. Um, it may look different, but I know that if I put my trust in God, it's going to work out in my highest good. You know, it may not always look like a huge bowl full of Georgia peaches, you know, smothered with homemade whipped cream with 11,000 bazillion, you know, cherries on top. You know, it doesn't always look like that. Um, you know, and sometimes it's a long walk, you know, and faith, it just having faith doesn't mean that something is going to change instantly, you know, but it's knowing that the one thing that's constant is change. So nothing can stay the same, you know?
Uh-huh.
Um, and to me, it's about not being married to a particular outcome because there's many times where what I thought I wanted, I didn't get. And what I did get, I was like, holy Toledo, this is so much better. I mean, what I wanted, I was going to settle for crumbs. I mean, look I got the whole cake. You know, who knew? You know, and when I got it, I was not happy. You know, I wanted my crumbs. So it's, you know, faith also goes in my mind hand in hand with gratitude. Um, you know, and it's allowing myself enough grace to be able to be happy even in times of stress. Um, you know, this doesn't mean I'm perfect at it. I'm far from it. There's times where I need to really kick myself in the behind. Um, you know, I have to maintain that positive attitude. And sometimes it's not easy, but when I work my plan, it works for me. So with that, what we'll do is we'll go back through and, you know, if anything came up for anybody that they would like to expand upon, boom shakalaka, let's do the darn thing.
Well, I wanted to pick up on something that Greg said when he was connecting faith with manifestation, because that resonates with me a great deal in terms of how I deal with faith. I associate faith with energy. I talked about that a little bit at the beginning, and it's positive energy, right? It's about how we respond to what's put in front of us. That doesn't mean that the outcome is always going to be immediately positive, like Randy said, but the way we approach what comes our way makes a big difference in terms of where we head, down the path. So that connection between faith and manifestation and positive energy, I think, is a real foundation of the belief system. And I have a more sort of pantheistic view of religion and creation, and there's energy that is found in that creation process. So that energy has to continue. It has to go somewhere else. Conservation of energy, natural laws, universal laws. And it's that energy that we then use to drive us forward. So there really is a link, I think, between manifestation and positive energy, going back to what Greg said. And then when Randy was talking about having faith in herself, I think one of the important pieces of faith for me is that faith gives us the permission to be imperfect, right? Randy, you put it in terms of being able to relax in those hardest moments. That's that permission to be imperfect, right? We can allow ourselves not to always have all the answers, not to always be on top of every detail at every moment, because we have the belief, the faith, the promise that this is all going to work itself out, right? We just aren't seeing the total picture yet. It's like a giant jigsaw puzzle, right? We only have some of the pieces in place, so we can't see what's going to come out of it, but we know that the pieces that we have in place are in the right places. So that idea of faith being the permission to be imperfect, I think, is really important to me too. So those are two of the things that popped out at me as we were talking.
Nice.
Two things that popped out at me was self and gratitude. Meaning faith and self is trusting oneself and knowing that all will be well. To me, with faith, knowing that I myself have faith in myself, one, that this will happen. There's times that I've gone through deep, hard moments, and I just know that all will be well, even though everything is looking so bad at that moment. It's like, it's going to be well. I'm going to be well. Everyone's going to be well. And, it may not be that right time, but then that time comes in, or just something happens and it's like, oh my gosh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And all I could do is just give thanks, gratitude. That's the one thing when that outcome, even if it's not what you want, being thankful, being grateful, living in gratitude and giving thanks is very important to me. Very important. Those are two aspects that are very important. Faith in self and also, as well as living in gratitude, is very important to me.
Okay, so I think that the thing that occurred to me is that in my early days of recovering from alcoholism, I had started to realize that I was told what I had to have faith or belief in, and I even started to get that in AA. But I did find a group of meetings where they didn't go for all of that stuff, because I thought, oh, they're trying to indoctrinate me as a Christian. But through those meetings and therapy and this sort of thing, I think the thing was of getting faith in myself, that I was going to be able to do this and to do a lot of other things that I believed in. So as I said before, it was all about wiping the slate clean and finding my faith in what I believe my faith would be. And of course, the first thing was myself. And then when I discovered my mediumship in Lilydale, it was kind of like I think the first thing that happened was coming across the Tibetan monks and realizing that, and I did like the concept of the kingdom of God being within, like they believe within, and I found that more palatable But then as I discovered spiritualism, the continuity of life, that I could put my faith in a lot of other things, but I made it mine, and even went back to it. But a few years in, I even started to go back to the temple that I went to as a kid, and discovered there were many aspects of the Reformed Judaism that I had that did coincide with the Buddhism and the spiritualism. And a friend of mine who's also a medium said the thing that all of the three of those have in common is self-responsibility, is taking responsibility for my life. And what I'd like to hear was the gratitude, because in the beginning, I was very grateful that I was able to maintain sobriety 35 years ago when I was very early into the whole thing, but also that I was very grateful to discover an area of my spiritual life that I discovered myself that I had no idea about, and that I was able to make everything my own, that I really owned my beliefs and faith, and was able to give myself permission to let that grow and evolve. So I like the fact that I'm not just a spiritualist or just a Buddhist, or just Reformed Jewish, that I can take all of those things and, have faith. And from those things, that's where my faith can evolve. So this was a very good topic. So thank you for it.
Welcome, Sarah. Greg?
Yeah, I feel I like what everybody's saying on it. I feel faith is a lesson in a lot of ways. If I look back at my life and when I had faith, or if I did or if I didn't, and just the way things happened, I think the lesson is there. But I also was thinking about faith. If faith is, say, it's on the top of the pyramid or whatever, I feel like you have to have certain things. I think that things lead to faith. So like something, hope can lead to faith. The manifestation part that I was talking about, but there was a word that came to me when Chris was talking, and it's patience. Because in order to have faith, you really have to have patience. And well, it helps, and it's and there's so many things, love and all these things that can lead to faith. So it's kind of like this thing that leads up to faith. And, I'm not saying faith is the highest on the list, but it has different aspects to it, but I think patience is a big one. And that word just popped out. I had to write it down because I keep forgetting little things like that. I could remember it like 2 seconds ago and forget it. So anyway, it's a great topic. Thank you.
All right. So, I should have warned all y'all earlier. I had an extremely tiresome weekend. So if I don't make sense, just ignore me. But what's popped out to me is patience is key. Reason it's key is because, like I said earlier, and I think somebody else mentioned it, is faith doesn't mean something is going to change immediately. Sometimes you have to have faith in something for a very long period of time, days, weeks, months, even years, before the actual transformation takes place. I also believe that there's at least 2 types of faith. I believe there's universal faith, and that's what I'm going to label it, because, it may not be God to you. It may be universe, higher power, whatever works for you. I believe there's faith in that, but also faith in me. I accomplish a lot that people ask me, how do I do it? Especially creative stuff, with my hands. I don't know how I do it. I just say, this is what I'm going to do. And I sit down, and I'm prepared that, I could have a failure. And thankfully, it usually always works out. But if I didn't have faith in me, I wouldn't even get there because I would be too afraid to try. So I think that that's important. Faith to me also means options. You know, because with faith, you have options. Like I said earlier, it may not turn out the way you envision it. It may turn out better. So there's options. I love options. I am an option person. And lastly, you know, gratitude was brought up, and I can't say enough about gratitude. You know, when we have spirit or our guides, or I'm going to call it God, working for us behind the scenes, you know, when we're working, we want recognition for our hard work. So do they.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's always important to be grateful and to let them know that you're grateful. And just to be grateful in general, that, I mean, how freeing is it that through faith, it's kind of like freedom. We don't have to be in control all the time. We can step out of the
Mm.
driver's seat and let somebody else take the reins for a minute and just say, okay, I'm going to sit here as a passenger, and, you know, we'll see where we go. And so I like freedom too. With that, I am going to ask if anybody else has anything else they want to share one more time.
I want to follow up on what you said about two kinds of faith, the faith in God, creator, whatever, and then the faith in self. I see those as two sides of the same coin because we are created in the image of the creator. So we are the same, we are part of the same energy. So to have faith in one, you really need faith in the other. You can't separate them. And until you can have faith in yourself as well as faith in God, I don't think you're truly faithful. You know, I think you need to see both sides of that coin in order to really practice true faith. Otherwise, you're denigrating half of the creation, right? If you don't have faith in yourself, then you're saying, well, then the creator has not done his job because he's created something that you can't have faith in, right? I mean, it just, to me, I think they're integrally tied together. So
Anyone else want to jump back in?
I agree with Chris. Yeah, she's right. You know, they're both tied in together, you know, trust, faith, and creator, Allah, Jehovah, how many names, however he's called. But also one of the things is also faith in yourself as well. They, like she said, they work hand in hand, work together. Without one, you can't have the other. It's like they're coming together. I agree.
See, I don't agree a little bit with part of that, in the fact that I've seen very, very weak people still have faith and they don't believe in themselves.
but how true is that faith that they practice? That's my point.
Well,
This, I love
the
this.
person I'm speaking, just for instance, this person, I mean, real Bible like verse, but just like broken. So I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that I don't know if everybody has to, I don't think everybody has, a lot of people don't have faith in themselves, although they might have faith in God, and they think that, well, and I don't know how to talk about that, but it's just something I felt.
I'd like to add something. I think when Greg brings that up, I feel about, do you have faith out of fear or out of love? Because when I was growing up, and a number of my Christian friends used to invite me to their church services, I mean, which I was not used to this, the pounding the pulpit and saying, you've got to believe this. that or the other thing, or you're going downstairs, that kind of thing. And so you know, and I, you know, the term God fearing, I always had a problem with, because it's kind of like whipping people in line, and it doesn't seem, I mean, I guess it is real in a way, but it's more fear-based than love-based. And I think that my journey was to, in making it my own, was to make it love-based, but then it's love of self as well, without letting the ego go crazy. But I don't know if that's what you were trying to say, Greg, but that's what came to mind. It's like, where does the faith in a creator or God come from? Is it from inside, or is it from some guy pounding his fists on the pulpit and yelling and screw, like when I used to be scared by those guys on TV when I was like Oral Roberts and Billy Graham. I mean, those guys scared me. So it, you know, you ask yourself, where is it coming from? That's where I think I can kind of
If I
be on
could-
the same wavelength
if I
as
could-
Greg.
Say one thing about just the one person I'm thinking about. It's like they gave their faith away. You know, their
Right.
faith is in their God, like in their Jesus, whatever it is. It doesn't matter who or what. But they gave their faith away, and it all, you know, it all revolves around that fear. You know, I don't know. I think it's something.
But, and I don't have anything against people who know their Bible and can quote Bible verse. That's not what I'm saying. But if you
Right.
go to that and you're always quoting the Bible to justify or to explain or whatever, it
Right.
becomes mechanical rather than spiritual. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That it's not really then about the faith, it's about the practice.
Yeah.
It's mechanizing it, it's institutionalizing it, it is not personalizing it, right?
Right.
And in giving that faith away, that individual is then giving up their self-control, and you need to have some self-control in order to have true faith.
See, I think you're right about the having both sides.
Yeah.
I'm more talking about just experience, seeing people
Right.
giving their faith. You know, it was more about seeing, you know.
Right.
But yeah, I agree with you.
And they think they have faith because they've given themselves over completely to this practice of institutionalized or mechanized faith, but they really have not established a true personal faith, if that makes sense. Like
Uh-huh.
they
And I
think
wasn't
they
trying to dig. I wasn't trying to dig on anybody or anybody's.
no,
thing.
and I'm not either. I'm
Conversation
just
about
yeah,
how
yeah.
it works, you know, a bit.
right.
in
Yeah,
my-
I just
my
think
opinion.
there's so
Well, I think
and
it comes down to when people try to tell you what you must have faith in or must believe, where that's where the fear
Yes.
element comes in.
True.
Yep.
True.
agree.
I have trouble. Well, I have a lot of trouble with organized religion. I'm not telling other people they should, you know, whatever they works for them, works for them. As a minister that's had a lot of theology courses, you know, I know some things that just don't jive. And I have a hard time having faith in something that I'm taught to fear. How can I have faith that you're helping me if I'm fearful of you?
Exactly.
And going back to something you said, Chris, I agree with you that it's two sides of the same coin, but we have to realize that both exist in my mind.
Yeah,
Because
well, yeah.
when I was younger, I had no problem having faith in myself. I had a lot of problem having faith in the universe. But, you know, and what does that say? That says I was full of ego and arrogance. Full of it. and it takes a lot of learning and a lot of lessons to see that there's two sides and that they have to be balanced. You know, um, ego serves its purpose when it's in bounds. It has a positive thing. But for us to be so wrapped up in faith in ourselves, then we're kind of like edging God out in my mind.
Mhm.
Well, not kind of, we are.
Yeah.
All right, one last round. Anybody? Before we
I
go,
just want, I think sometimes we put too many definitions to something that has this very simple definition. Like just say faith, and it has one, and then, we like to analyze, we like to have our opinions, and we all think our opinions everybody wants to hear. And I'm not saying, you know what I'm saying, but sometimes we over define things.
True.
Right.
Yeah,
Sometimes we
sure.
just need to let them be without definition.
Like faith is faith, man. It's
Mhm.
almost like. So I think we should just do this whole thing over. What are we doing here?
Faith is just simple.
It's
It's
just
so
faith,
simple.
man.
Yeah, it's simple, man. It's faith.
can't see, and there's no factual, what am I trying to say here?
Right.
I'm
That was
tired.
good.
tired. It's having
There's-
belief in something that you can't see, smell, or taste,
Hmm.
but that is working.
That's really all I wanted to say right from the beginning.
Well, it got
Sidetrack.
so with that, please remember that everybody's contact info is at the end. If there's somebody that you would like to reach out to, we are honored and privileged to have you spend time with us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Guys, do you want to say goodnight?
Good night.
Good
Good night.
night.
Everybody, have a week as amazing as you. Bye bye.